Lesser-known facts about The Evil Dead. It has been over 40 years since Sam Raimi's cult classic redefined independent filmmaking. This bloody horror flick proved that even a low-budget, cash-strapped attempt to create something promising can be commercially viable. It not only started Sam Raimi's career, but it also made a star out of the lead actor Bruce Campbell. The character of Ash Williams became an iconic figure in horror film industry, and the impact of Evil Dead was far beyond the time, because it went on to inspire the likes of Edgar Wright and Peter Jackson, who are regarded as some of the finest directors today. The franchise did deliver some mediocre films later, but it is still regarded as one of the strongest genre-defining attempts that managed to combine gore and horror into a beautifully brutal world. However, there is much more to this all-time classic than what meets the eye. There are some shocking facts that few are aware of, and in this video we will dive into some of the lesser-known information that even some of the die-hard fans don't know. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The disturbing history of the cabin they filmed in. The things they show in the movie are undoubtedly terrifying, but at least you know it is all fiction. The secrets of the cabin, where the film, a major portion of the movie however, was filmed in, are quite real, and no lesser than a horror flick in itself. Apparently, almost over 100 years before the film was shot there, a man built that cabin, and he died inside it under mysterious circumstances within a week of completing his work there. After a few years, a family moved in, and it comprised a mother, her daughter, and a grandmother. Now, the region was notoriously known for frequent lightning strikes because of the iron ore deposits in the nearby mountains, which attracted the lightning bolts. So it was a common phenomenon for this region to experience violent thunderstorms with flashes of lightning striking at random places. One such night, when a maddening storm broke out, the frightened little girl went to her mother's room and found her dead. The shocked young girl then ran to her grandmother's room, and even she was dead inside. It was a bizarre coincidence that they both died mysteriously on the same night, and since then the little girl was raised by the locals. She never regained her normal composure, and after the traumatic night she kept wandering through the woods during thunderstorms. Barely a week after the crew finished the filming process, a lightning strike burned the cabin down, and Sam Raimi considers himself lucky to have been saved from this tragedy. Was the cabin cursed in real life? Well, we don't know for sure, but there is certainly something off about the location. Due to budgetary issues, the crew actually slept in the cabin during the production process, and it must have been quite creepy for them to stay in this place with such a history. The budgetary constraints were very serious. We often hear about low-budget movies from the 80s, but the struggle behind making Evil Dead was almost unthinkable. Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell desperately looked around for funds just about everywhere. They scouted for investors in the most random places and even raised donations to get just about enough to get the project started. Campbell later revealed in his autobiography that he even borrowed money from his family members, and finally he used his family property as collateral to finish the movie. Sam Raimi was so moved by his commitment and dedication that he gave him the title of executive producer. Even after their best efforts, they had to stop filming for months because the funds were completely exhausted. Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell and the others would again launch a desperate search for funds, and work only resumed after they could raise enough money. They also worked various odd jobs as waiters, cab drivers, etc. in order to gather funds, and the young group of friends managed to make it work out of sheer determination. All we can say is hats off to their legendary efforts and sticking to their dreams against all odds. It actually started with a short film. Well, it is no surprise that no producer or investor was going to back a young man with no experience in filmmaking. Sam Raimi was straight out of college, and he knew that he had to find some potential investors. In order to advertise his abilities, he created a horror short film titled Within the Woods, and this was basically a prototype of what was about to come. It was all about portraying his skills for others to see, and he got his friends, Bruce Campbell and Eileen Sandweiss, to star in the movie as the protagonists. It was made at an incredibly low budget of around $1,500, but it did have a powerful impact. He was smart enough to convince a local theatre owner to screen the movie, and it immediately attracted a lot of attention from the cinema goers. This short film essentially had the same storyline as the feature film, but it was never released commercially. You can always find the short film on the internet, and it might prove to be a fun watch, especially when you realize how it was made on a shoestring budget by a novice filmmaker. The crew had to deal with numerous injuries. This was not your typical professional Hollywood crew, and the tight budget did not allow any room for experts. Thus, Sam Raimi had to work with an inexperienced crew, many of whom had never been on a film set before. The filming was done in some remote locations, and the harsh surroundings meant that injuries were frequent. People got lost in the woods at times, and the cinema equipment often caused a minor injury here and there. In fact, even the actress Betsy Baker survived through great pain when her eyelashes were accidentally ripped off while her face mask was being removed. Besides these injuries, there were other hardships to endure, such as living under very cold conditions, burning furniture to stay warm, and going without showering for days. No pain, no gain, they say. Well, for this movie at least, the proverb did pay some rich dividends. Things got a bit too high during filmmaking. No, we don't mean it in terms of the budget or the locations. We are actually talking about the cast, who didn't mind smoking the greens and getting stoned during the shooting. Campbell later admitted that they all smoked up and got high because they had heard rumors about Jack Nicholson getting high during the filming of Easy Rider. Campbell himself hadn't smoked before, and you can imagine what some good quality grass did to him. It is believed that one of the footages from the filming couldn't be used at all because the actors were way too wasted during the process. In the original script, there was a part where the characters first listened to the tape and they are smoking up during the process. While the actors tried to make the scene authentic, it didn't work because of all the uncontrollable laughter and behavior. Sam Raimi used one of these opportunities to shoot a scene where Ash is having a breakdown. And you can imagine how that went. Stephen King loved the movie and even promoted it. By the time this movie came along, Stephen King was already a big name. His works had been recognized, and movies like The Shining had made him a horror icon. The author watched the film and rated it very highly. In fact, he ranks this as one of his favorite horror flicks of all time, and he decided to support the movie in every way possible. He helped them find distributors, and his review that described The Evil Dead as the most ferociously original film of the year was largely used in promoting the movie. It is heartwarming to know that such a famous personality actually came out in support of a film made by young people who hadn't yet become familiar faces in Hollywood. The Secret of the Melting Corpse. If you have watched the movie, you certainly remember one of the most unforgettable scenes with the melting corpse. You'd be surprised to know how the makeup and special effects supervisor, along with the director, put together the corpse. They obviously did not have the high-end products and equipment, and they had to get incredibly innovative with this one. Everything from mashed up cockroaches to marshmallows and oatmeal was used to make things look real. They did succeed in having the desired effects because it ended up being one of the talking points of the movie. The special effects artist, Tom Sullivan, also came up with ideas like adding coffee to the fake blood so that it looked more impactful. Such brilliance not only helped the budget, but also made many of the scenes look unbelievably real for a low-budget movie. The camera work had to be extremely creative. Just like the makers did not have the budget for expensive makeup and effects, they also couldn't afford a camera stabilizer. This called for some extreme measures, and the shaky cam technique came to the rescue. Sam Raimi confidently went ahead with the shaky cam, and this actually gave the film a unique look. Do you remember the scene where the evil floats through the woods? This was actually done by fixing the camera to a wooden board and making people run alongside to shoot the scene. Just as the practical effects worked wonders, these innovative camera angles also added a fresh look to the film. The movie took a toll on Sam Raimi. All the struggle, all the hard work, and all the grit and determination to make the movie happen certainly paid off, but it came at a price. The movie took a serious toll on Sam Raimi's health because he was completely exhausted. He had to shoot at night, and during the day he stayed up to write the script. Thus, he was technically working 24/7, and all this non-stop work caused him to faint at times during shooting a few scenes. It is no secret that the scenes were pretty hardcore, and when the director passed out, the crew used a bucket of ice-cold water to wake him up. He indeed set a very powerful example for many aspiring filmmakers who were hesitant about the amount of struggle that they would have to go through. The assistant editor might seem familiar. You know Joel Coen and Ethan Coen as the Oscar-winning duo today. But this is where Joel got a start to his career. He worked as the assistant editor for The Evil Dead, and he closely observed the entire filming process as a young man. He was so inspired by Sam Raimi's style of makeshift DIY filmmaking that he later created a trailer to work as their pitch for producers. It was supposed to help him raise money for Blood Simple, his first feature, just like Sam Raimi used the short film to promote his concept. The mighty Coen brothers might have a word of thanks reserved for Sam Raimi for giving them a glimpse into the creative world and all its tricks. Hit it! The film's premiere continued with the Theatrics. Sam Raimi took a leaf out of veteran horror director William Castle, who would often use various gimmicks to challenge and scare his audience. Raimi went for a bunch of theatrics such as customed tickets and wind tracks in the theatre. Besides, he also ordered a few ambulances outside the theatre because, according to him, the viewers could pass out or get sick with all the scary bits in the movie. There were also blood donor stations which would give away free tickets to those donating blood. You just couldn't keep the blood out of the picture when it came to The Evil Dead. These moves did work, but mostly because the film was actually good and the audience did not mind the shocks that came with it. You all know the end results, don't you? The movie ended up collecting millions of dollars from the box office, and it immediately catapulted Sam Raimi and Campbell into instant stardom. Do let us know about your favorite bits from the movie in the comments, and also tell us about the behind-the-scenes facts that impressed you the most. And if you like our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and stay safe. Thanks everyone.